Hello everyone, here psst.one. Today I'm glad to introduce you Tarik Barri. He started his career back in 2008 with Robert Tang when he began touring with him around the world. In the next years he collaborated with other musicians such as Nicolas Jaar, Sote, and now he shared the stage with Tom York. They will be in tour in Europe in the next months, and also they will present a new piece together for the ISM Exadom exhibition next week here in Berlin at Martin Gropius Bau. Also this year is the 10th anniversary of his own software Versum, and he will explain it in this long interview. So, enjoy! You study in Netherlands, music and in technology, and there you started to develop your visual aesthetic, I guess.
Yeah, it was in 2000 and in 2004 I started studying music and technology, and in 2006 I was already properly introduced to Max MSP, and I started playing around with these jitter objects. And even though I guess for the outsider it wasn't that spectacular what I was doing and what I was seeing, just the fact that I could have a little number go up and down in value, and at the same time a color would change and the pitch of some note would change, I thought that was amazing, because I understood that, of course, I wasn't just seeing and hearing what I was seeing and hearing. I also understood that this was in a way like just the very first little step on a journey that could go to who knows where. I was already a big fan of, for instance, Chris Cunningham and Aphex Twin's work together, which wasn't programmed or anything. It didn't have to do so much with the whole technical aspects of in the sense that I'm now very technically proficient. It had more to do with the whole idea of what you can do when you make this crazy marriage between audio and visuals. And I understood that in time I might be able to also make some really unique types of marriages between audio and visuals. And I did not really have a vision of what that was going to be or what that aesthetic would mean. I just knew there's crazy shit to be seen on the other side. I want to go there. I want to see what's happening there.
Design your personal software Versum. How was the story behind this software?
Yes.
And why?
On the one hand, I had always, my father was a painter, for instance, and I myself was making music since, I don't know, teenage years. I was making music on tracker programs, like old MS-DOS based sampling things. And meanwhile, in school, I had to choose between music as a course, or as a subject that you can choose, or drawing. And both those subjects were given at the same time, because it was clear that students shouldn't do both, because that would be too much of a pretpakket, which is the Dutch for like too much of a fun combination of subjects. Of course, you also need to do some serious stuff, and music and painting or drawing, that's of course nice, but it's not really serious stuff. So I had to make a choice there. So in my free time I was doing the music, in school I was doing the painting and drawing stuff, and it always felt as if these things somehow needed to be separate, that choices needed to be made there. That obviously, in terms of like my general feelings of aesthetics and of different interests, that got really nicely combined by finding out that with programming, I could really make both audio and visuals come from the same source, from the same source, which is me, but also through the same medium, that is the computer in a sense, and it expresses itself through both these senses. And then there was the other aspect, which is I started my study in music and technology because I wanted to be able to make live performances that made sense. I had already been making music and I thought that was great and I was composing all of it in great detail. But then once you are on a stage, I really just felt deeply uncomfortable with the idea that I would just be there to press play and then maybe add some effects on top of it. I mean, I didn't even realize at that time that that was what very many people are doing. But for myself, I just, no, that wasn't what I wanted to do. But I had no idea what else to do, because I didn't want to all of a sudden change my whole way of making music in a way that I felt uncomfortable with. Like, I didn't want to just sample everything on the spot and stuff. I really wanted to make these detailed compositions that take time to create, that you can't just make on the spot. And I was just stuck there. I didn't know what to do there. But I didn't know that if I was going to go into technology and all the possibilities there, then maybe there I could find ways to solve this weird problem. I started going deeper into the aesthetics of the visuals, but also I was going deeper into different methods of composing with both visuals and music. With this I mean, the example of Ableton Live is in itself also an audiovisual program. It shows you stuff and you hear stuff and you change stuff based on the visual feedback that you get, and you hear things differently, and that's how you create music. And the end product of it is meant to be purely auditory. So the visuals are not necessarily meant to be static, they're purely meant to be visual. But if you have a program that maybe visualizes music in a different type of way, and perhaps if it's more aesthetic, then you can have a tool that will also be great. You can have an end product which is both great to look at and to hear. And once you have that, and I was working a lot on that during my studies and also afterwards, but once you have that thing, then you have something that is very close to a proper, decent live performance again. Because one of the major aspects of a live performance is that you're not just hearing it, but you're also seeing it. Like a guitar player on a stage doing this, that is an audiovisual performance. Audiovisual performances really only became a thing after the visuals were lost. Because normally visuals were always part of performances, yes. Right? And only at some point when they were lost, it became this extra thing like, oh my God, yeah, we're going to do audiovisual performances. It's a new thing, but actually, in a sense, it's also just a return to a thing that we were missing before. Yeah, and I realized that slowly over time that, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm not just doing this thing of like, oh, I'd like to combine these two elements. It's also, oh, I'm actually rediscovering a way to do live performances in a way that I can actually show an audience what I'm doing.
What inspired you to make Versum? Why you end out with this new word somehow?
Well, actually, the earliest indication that I was gonna do something like this came very romantically in a way, in a dream. That was back when I was still studying psychology, and I had no idea that I was gonna get into music and into visuals in this kind of a way. And I did wake up from a dream, which was one that I woke up very excited from, and in that dream I had been working with the newest version of Fruity Loops, which was a program that I worked in at the time. And Fruity Loops is awesome, really underestimated in many ways. In any case, Fruity Loops, there was a new version of it, and it was 3D, and it was mind-blowing. All of a sudden you could fly across over the music, and it was, the funny thing is, in my dream I did not have a concept of why that was awesome, like why that was more than just a gadget. And I was also, after I woke up, I tried to remember, so, oh wow, that was so awesome, but why exactly was the 3D necessary? Like what was the extra advantage? And I couldn't think of it, but I did have that very strong excitement. And after that, you know, I went on with my life and didn't think about that for a very long time. Later on, I studied music and technology, and I saw a performance by Robert Henke. And in that performance, he worked with a two-dimensional matrix. There he could click on the different little boxes in the matrix and they could change color. And there was little circles moving sequentially through every of those rows in the matrix, and they would move in the same speed. So you'd hear the blue square, and then you'd hear a little bit the red square, and then it loops back again, the blue square, red square. So it goes on, and then at some point you had all these different layers, and then at some point some of these layers were suddenly moving faster than others. So you get all kind of interesting polyrhythmical patterns. And then came another really cool thing, which was some of the layers all of a sudden started moving backwards and then forwards again. And so you get really complex, interesting musical things going on, while still at the same time super intuitively, completely understanding everything that's going on. But your ears are treated to a richness which is surprising for what you're seeing built up there. I thought that was really, really genius. Then I was waiting for a next step to happen, which was, of course, yeah, this matrix, 2D, and now we're only moving in one dimension. Of course, I was waiting for a moment when all of a sudden that would happen. And I was really just waiting for that, and it kept on going. And at some point I was thinking, well, by now I sort of would expect it to happen, and then it was over. And I was I was at first a little bit disappointed, because the idea was right there in front of my face. Why didn't I see that? Why didn't I see this happen?
It's easy to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. But then I also thought, you know what? I have the tools to make this. I can do this. So there also from the disappointment came an encouragement in a way, an inspiration. Like, okay, it obviously needs to happen. So I did this. And then it was time for me to do my final project in school. And I had already gone from one-dimensional composing now to two-dimensional composing. Next step, obviously, again, is three-dimensional composing. And to go into three-dimensional composing, I just basically got inspired by how real life works. The real world is in 3D, and if I want to hear different sounds, I can of course create different sounds here, but one other way to do it is also to just move. I can go out into the streets, and I can go into the park, and then I can go to the airport or whatever, and everything has a very different soundscape. If you imagine that you have an abstract version of this, then it doesn't have to be the sounds of birds and of subways or all these kind of things. You can make it chords and melodies and rhythms and all these kind of things. So that's what I did. I made a 3D world which functions in very much the same way as our world does, but has only objects which are specifically meant to produce sounds that I give them. And you can see all of them, so you can decide what you want to hear, you can decide where you want to go. But also, like with a two-dimensional representation, you are not stuck to one very specific way of hearing it. You can go forward, or you can go backwards, or you can go spiraling around a certain three-dimensional structure of specific sounds. Or what you can do is you can have one sound here, another higher pitched sound that's here, and the other sound will revolve around it. And then you have another sound that at a slightly different speed will go around at a different angle. So you get an interesting polyrhythmical effect. But that interesting polyrhythmical effect will also change depending on where you're going to be listening. And the rhythms will start changing also towards each other. So again, you have something that's similar to what Robert Henke was doing, something that's extremely simple and easy, and everybody can understand what's going on. But you listen to the effect of it, and it's something that is not necessarily complex, but it just really doesn't fit into any of the normal musical rules that we've learned, while at the same time completely fitting intuitive rules that everybody can understand. Without leaving the domain of natural, very primal intuition, you can still do something that's incredibly new.
What push you to move on, to create something new, but still with your style? Because for me, you are a unique style. You see something of Tarik Barri.
Yeah, so there are, I guess I do have a style that I'm not even very much aware of, also because I'm constantly trying to break my own style. But there are Well, one thing that is quite consistent in my style is I definitely try to go where I have not seen enough other people go. That's a very strong thing, and it's not just that I want to be different. It's also that I just miss some things. It's like if you eat spaghetti every day, then at some point you want to eat something different. And not just because you're a rebel, it's just like, no, I had enough. Like I want something else. And so if I had never seen, the straight lines and bleeps and whatever, the kind of stuff that Alva Noto do and the kind of stuff that Ryoichi Ikeda do, if I'd never seen that, then maybe I would have really gone into that and see what I can do there. But I've seen this so many times that I really feel like it doesn't all need to be like that. What about having things that are organic and maybe even have horror of horrors, the color pink in it? Like let's try and go into more cuddly domains, while at the same time also, sure, technology, I love it, but technology doesn't have to be that kind of a cold creature either. There's a lot of presumptions, assumptions behind technological art that I often see repeated back at me in the aesthetics that I get, etc. And I'm thinking, there's no 10 commandments of audiovisual art that say that this has to be like that. So let's point the view to another direction and let's see what we can explore there.
You still work with Versum?
Yeah.
Still now,
yeah.
For everything. Yeah. So you put more stuff in Versum, yeah. Or you change a little bit Versum all the time?
I all the time work with the same basic Versum program indeed, and I just keep on adding new bits to it. And I never remove anything. I just try to put everything in a framework so that it doesn't stand in each other's way. Because of course I should not make my program super heavy to run, but I just make everything nicely modular that I can use certain things within Versum, but also when I don't use them, that they don't take any memory space or they don't take any computing space. And by being careful in exactly how I construct all my little modules, I can keep on building in ways that still keeps on working. It's been more effective than I could have imagined beforehand, but somehow it keeps on working. So I keep on building my software with every new project that I'm doing and keep on changing my aesthetics also. And very often my aesthetics are a combination between the new technical things that I want to explore and of course my own headspace where I'm at. And so there's me as a person, there's also the new technical thing, and there's the constant game of feedback between my system and what I put into it. And then what comes out is not just me, and it's of course also not just the programming, it is something that emerges from in between us. And I always also try to make it something that I could not have imagined beforehand. And that's also the great thing with computer programming. You can let the thing go wild in itself, and some stuff starts emerging, and then I start curating that stuff. And of course also manipulating and curating, but something comes out that I can really, really appreciate, but that does not even really feel like it's completely mine. Of course, in a way, I have to say it's mine because nobody else is going to can take credit for it. But it's not really. It's something that's immersed between myself and rules of logic that also already exist since the Big Bang.
And you already mentioned Robert Tank. How you get in touch with him? How did you start to collaborate with him?
Robert Henke is a very, very important figure in my life, in that it was with him that I did my first proper international performances and stuff, and it was with him that for the first time it really felt like maybe this is something that I can actually do professionally, rather than just as a, well, my God, how great would it be, but all of a sudden it became a real thing together with him. And I got to know him. Well, I was already very fascinated with his work, thanks to mainly his ambient stuff, the work that he made under his own name. I thought that was really, really beautiful. And yeah, then I also saw what he had done with his two-dimensional system. So it was very clear there is some kind of really strong connection between us, which obviously I feel stronger than you do because I know you and you have no idea who I am. But I thought I do want to get to you somehow. On his website he had put this job application that he was looking for people who could make software musical tools for him that could help him do that. And I thought, and in this job description he had put in this little assignment, just as a test of your skills and of your way of thinking and programming. Please could you make a little granular synthesizer that would have these and these properties. So I did that. I made exactly the tool that he was asking for to the best of my abilities, and I sent it to him. And I also, with doing that, I said, this is to show you what my abilities are in programming. But at the same time, I'm not interested in the job that you're asking, that you're giving. Also because I have too much to do with my study right now. But I do want you to know that I'm very interested in doing something more in the domain of visuals. And basically, it was just a way to respond to his question, to get his interest, but then also to then now they have his attention. Look here, because that's where I want to go. Yeah, and that also did catch his attention. He was interested, and at one point after my study was done, he asked maybe you would like to do a performance with me in Glasgow. So that was then also where we properly met. Before the performance in Glasgow, in the elevator of the hostel, or the hotel where I was staying, there I met Robert for the first time properly, personally. And that was after we already on Skype had decided we were gonna do something together. Yeah, it was really cool.
And you grew up with him also in aesthetic way.
It's an interesting process to go to if you want to go from making to start with the technology on a computer to defining your own visual style. It's in a way more difficult and maybe also perhaps more rewarding. No, I definitely find it more rewarding also, but it's also more difficult because computers very strongly have their own sense of aesthetics almost. Computers like ASCII, they like blinking stuff, they like on and off, they like binary stuff, they like straight lines. And if you want to get a computer to get away from that, you really need to push it. And especially back like 10 years ago, you had to go through more efforts to push the computer there than these days. And then especially if you want the computer to do things in real time, then it's even more difficult to get it to do all kinds of sexy, curvy stuff. So my aesthetic development has very much also been from the more straight lines to pushing it to go into more organic stuff. So yeah, together with him I grew up. I pushed my system more towards fitting his music even better. And after that, a couple of years after we've done a lot of things together and constantly been developing, that was when my visuals also got to a point where it became a little more free from the rigid computer. And that was also exactly at the point when I started working with Tom York, who is definitely not an engineer or anything like that. He's a very strongly emotional presence that definitely requires a more fluid, visual style also. So again, together with him, there was a new impulse to really push my visuals to go more into the more, I don't know if I want to use this word psychedelic, but sure, the more psychedelic domain, yeah.
This is the fun curiosity of everything. How you get in touch with Tom York?
Decided for myself that yes, I would love to work with Tom York, but also obviously, and yes, that's never going to happen. Still a nice thought. That was what I thought. But then there was also, but yeah, I still somehow expressed my thoughts to some friends, and one friend of mine, he told me that maybe it is not as crazy an idea as I think it is, because he was also a big fan of Tom York, and he also thought, well, but as I know the kind of projects that he's engaging in, it seems like, yeah, that he could actually, dig that kind of stuff that you're doing. So maybe try it. So then I thought, okay, then I'm going to try it. So then it felt really weird that I just started writing some technicians and friends who are inside this music world, like, hey, do you maybe know anybody who is in the neighborhood, who somehow is involved with Radiohead or whatever, or with Tom York? And then there was one guy, Vance, one friend. He had worked with the lighting guy of Radiohead, Andy Watson, who also does the stage design and does beautiful work for Radiohead. And this man, we got into email contact thanks to this friend who knew both of us. And he was interested in the kind of things that I had to say. He was also very busy, so he didn't have much time. But he said, like, yeah, sure, just come by at this performance in Berlin that we're gonna do. That performance was back in 2013, I believe. So yeah, I came to that performance, and because I had been in email contact with this guy, I also had a backstage after party pass. And there at this after party, I showed him my work. I had all my gear and stuff with me, and it was a big hassle getting through security and that kind of stuff. But I managed, fortunately. So I had all my stuff there, managed to set it up in a back room behind the after party, together with Andy. And there Andy saw what I was doing, and he also saw what I could do with the sliders and how it was all in real time. Because that, of course, was kind of an amazing thing for them to see, like, oh, you're doing this, like, it's happening now, and you can change it on the spot. And then Andy just said, oh, hold on, Tom needs to see this, which was interesting, because I thought, which Tom would he be talking about? But then there was Tom York who came by, and that was, of course, like, very shocking in a way, but it was also too much on a mission to be seriously shocked. It was more like, okay, great, you're here. That is fucking amazing, but let's get to business. So this is what I have, and this is how it works. And he was also very interested in it. So that went very quickly from him then being interested to him a couple of months later saying, well, would you like to try and make a video for this track that I have, which I then did. And then he liked the track, and then he asked if I perhaps would be interested in doing some live gigs together with him and Nigel. So yeah, that all of a sudden went amazingly quickly. Which I think is pretty cool. That he just thought that's interesting. So let's see what's going on there.